Hello, this is Danielle Channels Planets, and I'm an archetypal astrologer with a background in Jungian and depth psychology. And I've been studying archetypal astrology for over a decade and astrology for over 2 decades. So, my goal is to bring you updates and astro weather related to the archetypal energies in your individual lives so that you can work with the astrological archetypes on an individual level for your well-being. So what I'm going to look at today is the archetypal weather from April 22nd until the end of April. And today I have the afternoon pulled up here for April 22nd, and immediately I'm looking at the moon, and the moon is in Cancer. It is exactly conjunct Jupiter. So this can go in an infinite variety of ways, but the moon is our body, it's our mother, it's our sense of mothering in ourselves, it's our relationship to our emotions and our inner worlds, a sense of nurturing and safety and home within our bodies, within our homes, within the world, a sense of belonging and feeling held, feeling safe, feeling seen. The moon in Cancer specifically, I mean, it's at home in Cancer, so it's also a water sign. So typically we can be feeling maybe a little bit more intuitive, maybe a little bit more sensitive, maybe a little bit more inwardly drawn, reflective. But as the moon conjuncts Jupiter, Jupiter is the principle of expansion. Expansion, growth, optimism, but also excess and hubris. So there is an energy in the air today on Wednesday related to our emotions, related to feeling our emotions, related to even connecting to the feminine, maybe connecting to other women emotionally, feeling seen or feeling mothered in a deep way, whether that's with ourselves or with another. But on the other side, it could be having a lot of emotions surface that are difficult to hold. So this can show up in our lives differently depending on where it's in your chart. The moon, particularly, I mean, moon Jupiter doesn't have an extremely negative connotation right away. But for today, I would say that the moon can be experiencing a lot of tension and a lot of pressure. And that's due to these several square aspects that are going on with Mercury, Mars, Saturn, and Neptune. And when that happens, our emotions can feel strained by our logical function, things that we are trying to go into action with, things that are demanding our time and our energy, particularly because of Saturn on Mars. And Saturn can be delays and boundaries and pressure and slow things down or have a lot of work to do. Mars can be assertiveness and having to do and having to go be active and having to get things done. And Saturn can have a tendency to slow things down. So Neptune can also make sometimes boundaries a bit diffuse or confusing. Maybe even just making decisions can feel like, oh, what do I do now? How do I do this? Like, where am I going here? And what does this all mean? And so despite us going into action and feeling propelled by Mars Mercury, can feel like a quick moving mental energy or a fieriness in our attitudes, a fieriness in our cognitive function. There can still be this connection to these deeper outer planet transits that are also occurring with Saturn, Neptune, connecting us to the collective, connecting us to an understanding of our individual paths, our individual journeys, and how it relates to the collective, with Neptune being oneness and Neptune being the collective unconscious, and Saturn being lessons and being working hard at something to reconstruct it. And so something around what we're doing in our individual lives is connected to our relationship to the collective, but in a way where we have to be disciplined, we need to be focused, we need to have structure in order to kind of get the ship moving here. So whatever kind of endeavors you're taking on, like stay in your discipline, stay in your routine. It's important to continue to create that. Now that Mars and Mercury are moving past Saturn, we're going to start to feel a little bit more lift off. We're going to start to feel a little bit more forward momentum as those two move away from Saturn. And by April 29th, Mars will still be there, so we'll still be kind of sloughing off some of the mud and some of the ropes that Saturn can put around us and hold us down with. We're starting to cut those cords. Mercury has definitely traveled beyond, and we're our mental faculty is now able to take on a new expression and able to take on, you know, more of its quickly moving pace that Mercury is more comfortable with now that it's separated from Saturn. Saturn can tend to slow us down, bog it down. You know, it has a gravity to it that pulls, and so it's not bad for Mercury. It's just that those two are typically opposing forces. Mercury being more of the eternal high-flying youth, and Saturn being more of the wise old man. So as those separate, you know, it's kind of like setting the inner child free to play and giving it some new boundaries and new permissions now that it's been hanging out with Saturn. It's kind of like it's passed the test, and now it gets to take what it's learned and put it into practice. And so, however that's showing up in your personal life, I would hope that maybe you start to see some forward momentum in any kind of activity, philosophy, new perspective, new understanding, or vision that you're carrying with you into the future, since the Aries new moon particularly. But however, going back to right now on which would be the 22nd. So we also have an ongoing Uranus and Venus conjunction. So this one's really cool. I mean, it can come through in a lot of ways. I do get excited. I mean, when we look at Uranus, it's exciting, it's liberating, it's electrifying, it's creative. It can be disruptive, it can be erratic, it can be shattering, it can be electrifying in a way that can be shocking at times. But it is the great liberator. And so with Venus coming to hang out with Uranus, Venus is our values and our relationships and our sense of beauty and aesthetics. And so pairing beauty, aesthetics, values with the great liberator, this can come through in so many ways, but some examples might be related to our creativity, related to being a unique individual, and being able to recognize ways in which cultural messages from others or other styles of creativities, sometimes that we need to liberate ourselves from that to be in our own unique essence. Now, when we do that, we might not get seen or praised in the way that we want to. And so Uranus-Venus is asking us to stand in our own unique creative expression, believing in ourselves. And sometimes this is through a celebration of differences. So if Saturn is kind of the more mainstream traditional archetype of institutions and the way that things are done, Uranus would be what breaks free from all of that and rebels and thinks outside the box. And so in our lives, it's what makes us different than other people. And so right now, Venus talking with Uranus is saying, like, yeah, there are things that make us different than other people, and what makes you different does connect you to humanity. So there's a human component here. So this can relate to imperfections, perceived flaws, unique differences, character things that start to stand out. I mean, there can be a tendency to be disruptive in relationships, or we could be considering how we show up in relationships if we act more ourselves, or if we act more of our authentic way of being, which can free up a lot of energy when we do that. But then that energy being seen can be a very scary thing, such as like unmasking when you're neurodiverse. This is kind of like a unmasking transit, which is great. I think that we all need to unmask more in many different ways. So Venus is kind of meeting up here saying, hey, I value this, and these are my values. This is what I think. And even though everybody else is doing it this way, this is what feels comfortable. This is what feels good to me, Venus and Taurus. This is what I value. This is what I find my worth in. And when you do that, that's when the energy can really be used in a constructive way that's coming through with Uranus. Uranus being creativity, Uranus being your unique individuality and creative expression and individuation. And so I do think that watching out for your thoughts and comparisons to other people, or taking care of your creative energy to make sure that you're not just living for other people's values to fit in or belong in society. Like right now, Venus is like, no, I gotta believe in myself. I needed to believe in my unique essence, really grabbing hold to that. Sometimes that means change, and sometimes that means shedding layers that we have taken on to fit in, and disrupting that and breaking free of those layers that and shells or masks or personas that have encased us. In Groff breathwork, Uranus is the perinatal matrix that is associated with expulsion from the womb. So Neptune, Saturn, Pluto have these correlations to birth trauma, and Uranus would be the birth moment of when we leave the womb or are C-sectioned out. And so Uranus has this kind of freedom and liberating kind of essence to it. And we might have birth trauma around that. We might have trauma from childhood around that. As Venus and Uranus meet up, they are also in a trine to Pluto, and they will be moving closer and closer to that trine as I go into the 23rd and the 25th. It gets stronger. And then towards the end of April, we have Venus and Uranus both in a strong trine aspect to Pluto. So there is something about unearthing previous traumas or messages around being ourselves. And it's a supportive, harmonious thing, like this whatever's being liberated and that we're looking at within ourselves, that we're going through a personal transformation right now. This energy is here to support our growth. It's here to support moving forward. I think that with this, there can be a nod to the past and a nod to where we've been and being able to see how it's impacted us. But Venus and Uranus is kind of saying like, hey, let's look towards the future. Let's look towards solutions. Let's look towards, everything that has happened, and how do we move forward now? And how do we continue to express ourselves? We are aware that we've been living our lives for a really long time, according to some things that happened a long time ago. And so Venus is leading the way, on April 25th here. Venus will accompany Uranus in its transition to Gemini. And so Uranus moving into an air sign can be a lot of realizations around our thinking and our speech and our ideas and how we communicate. It can liberate our throat chakras. It can really open us up to self-expression and how we share our ideas with the world. And at the same time as we do that, it's also being connected to Pluto, Lord of the Underworld. There are these things within ourselves that we confront along the way, deepest fears, shame narratives, old constructs that need to break down, that need to decay, that need to rot, that need to putrefy alchemically, so that we can recycle that energy so that it can be used for what's to come. And so I know that's like a psychological metaphor, but essentially this can be new ways of looking at your past or looking at your childhood or looking at what's happened to you, and with a new understanding of how that impacts who you are today. And so if Uranus is kind of the Tower card in the tarot, this is kind of like looking at the corner piece and pulling it out. And it can make the whole thing a little wobbly. So if you're feeling wobbly, and if you're feeling uncertain, or if you're feeling nervous or restless or shaky, you're not sleeping well, or creative and liberated, but there can be so many ways that Uranus can come through, especially moving into Gemini. I could see a lot of nervous energy being released. This can also bring new ways of handling that wobbliness. So I'm not a Jenga expert, but it's not necessarily just removing the Jenga piece. This is like finding a new way to play Jenga. This is like finding, creating your own rules for the game, but still playing it nevertheless. Gemini loves a good game. Venus is there to play and to connect to other people. And Uranus is change and freedom and rebellion. So like we're using Legos while we play Jenga. We're using them to construct a different colorful support beam that is specially uniquely made for our unique Jenga tower. And it's not even becoming a tower, it's like turning into like its own kind of construction. So think along those terms, but first you have to pull that piece out that makes it wobbly. And then you have to be creative with how you're going to construct it. And I'm talking about your psyche. I'm talking about the construction of your identity and your personality and how it's been built over time, built off of ideas and constructs and thoughts related all the way down to childhood and all the way down to coming into this world. And so right now with the end of April, we are having this opportunity to really get in touch with deeper aspects of ourselves, our psyches, the collective, and what the collective is going through, and have a very deep awareness of the humanity of all of us, our own unique humanity, and breaking down barriers that block us from connecting to humanity and caring about each other. And so Mars is connected to Saturn, Neptune. Saturn Neptune's been an ongoing conjunction that we've had through 2026, and it will go on for another year. Reconstructing ideologies, reconstructing and reforming or breaking down old systems related to beliefs. And so in our individual lives, we are still probably a bit goo, like a butterfly in a cocoon, or caterpillar in a cocoon, with our own belief structure and philosophy still, with Saturn, Neptune in a type conjunction. Those things can be, it can be a little unclear or diffuse as our world gets uprooted, transformed, reconstructed around a new ideology. And so Mars has been maybe conflicted, maybe going to action, maybe feeling aggressive, maybe putting a lot of energy into reconstructing those beliefs, or feeling frustrated and trying to make change around a dream that we want to make real. So to have Mars and Venus then also talking to Pluto, Uranus, there is a connection for the rest of April to all of the outer planets. So the outer planets really represent alchemy and individuation. And when we have transits that involve all of the outer planets connecting to each other, it can be like a very intense alchemical process where at one moment we're being heated up, and another minute we're being cooled down, and then we're being dissolved, and then we're being calcified, and then we're putrefying, and then so there's a lot of different psychic changes that are going on just for the last week of April. And so the way that these come through in anyone's individual chart is going to be different depending on your personal aspects, but generally it's a very, very, very transformative time collectively, individually in our lives. I think a lot of people are probably experiencing some disruption, some uprooting, some reconstruction, some endings, beginnings, massive transition points. And so I want everyone definitely to think about like what supports you navigating transition and finding your creativity and your flow state while in transition. It's probably one of the hardest things to do because transitions can bring up a lot of stress, and stress brings up old coping. So this is an opportunity to rewrite the script of how we navigate life, how we navigate stress, and what keeps us in our unique individual essence as we navigate collective change in the world, archetypally on a very big level. And so let's see here. I also want to look at just going to the end of April. Venus will start to separate from Uranus. This grand stellium that we've had in Aries will also start to loosen. So that will, again, I think we'll be going more into action now that we've gotten like the idea of what we're working on and what we're trying to implement, and now things are going to start to move faster. Things are going to start to really pick up action-wise. The moon will come into an opposition before the new moon or before the full moon, and it will reach a full moon on May 1st, and that will be in Taurus. And that will be another video that I'll do, but for right now, that will be a culmination of the previous 6 months. It relates to a new moon that we had in Scorpio last fall, winter 2025. And Jupiter will continue to be in a square aspect with Mars. And so 19 Jupiter squaring Mars, that can definitely amp us up with a lot of energy. That can definitely get us going. I mean, it's going to be attention. It's going to be Jupiter is expansive and growth oriented. So there can be a lot of things for us to work on and to chew on and to do. It can be a tendency towards excess as well. And so with Taurus season, there might be a little bit of a propensity to bite off more than we can chew, is one of the metaphors that I have seen coming through. Yeah, but I think overall, the rest of April, generally, takeaway would be to move the energy, stay active. If you find yourself stuck, DBT, opposite action, like get off the couch and just stand. I think dopamine is a big thing right now. So making sure that you find higher, sustainable, high dopamine activities to do throughout the day. I think Aries is here to help us with that, and here to help us understand how to use our bodies, how to use fire energy, how to stay active. And Saturn is here to also help us create discipline around that. So it can be a new kind of workout routine. It can be having a lot of different fun, available, accessible options to engage physically and to keep our minds active. And Mars Mercury transiting is like, how can I get my body and my movement to match the pace and the rhythm of my mind? And so there's kind of like a syncing up here of mind and body, and a liberation of an authentic expression when that happens with Uranus and Venus. So stay tuned for a future video on the full moon that we'll have on May 1st here. And thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe to my channel for more archetypal news updates. Thanks.